You to this Fond Memories of Srila Gurudev program. Today we are very fortunate to have with us very senior devotee of Srila Gurudev and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad, our Pujapad Tirthpad Prabhuji. I will start this program with Jai Dhwani. Jai Shri Guru Gaurang Gandharvika Vidhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ji ki Jai. Shri Radha Ramana Ji ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtom Vishnu Padashtota Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. रूपानुग गुरुवर की जय, वृंदावन नवदीप धाम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि. So we'll start with a kirtan first, and then I'll give a short introduction of Prabhuji, and then Prabhuji will share his sweet memories with Srila Gurudev. Okay, Prabhuji, you can start the kirtan now. Shri Guru Charan Padma, right?
Yes.
Okay, I will try to share this.
Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Bando Mui Savadana Bando Mui Savadana Bando Mui Savadana Bando Mui Savadana Krishna Prati Hoya Krishna Prati Hoya Krishna Prati Hoya Krishna Prati Hoya Padmavakya Chitete Koriyaka Padmavakya Chitete Koriyaka Arana Koriho Mahanesha Arana Koriho Mahanesha Siddhu Charane Rati Esevitanagati Siddhu Charane Rati Esevitanagati Jeprasare Pure Jeprasare Pure Jeprasare Pure Jeprasare Pure Chapu Gano Dilaje Jane Jane Prabhu Se Dilaje Jane Jane Prabhu Se Divya Gyan Vile Prabhashito Divya Gyan Vile Prabhashito Hima Bhakti Jahate avidya vinasayate bhakti-jahate avidya vinasayate Sindhu Adama Karuna Sindhu Lokana Lokera Lokanata Lokera Gurudeva Lokera Prabhupada Lokera Prabhupada Lokera Aha Prabhu Parodaya Deha More Parachara Aha Prabhu Parodaya Deha More Parachara Pade Loi Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Haribo, Nitai Gaura, Haribo, Nitai Gaura, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura, Haribo. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was so nice. Prabhuji sang this kirtan in a very, very nice tone, very gambhir tone. So nice, Prabhuji. Today we are very, very fortunate to have one of the very senior devotees of Srila Gurudev and also our Bhaktivedanta Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. Tirthpad Prabhu, he became officially became disciple of Pujapad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad in 1973 after serving for a year in Brooklyn Temple in New York. So he came to the temple in 72. And he was a poet previously after graduating from MSU, attending poetry readings and began working in a bookstore on Port Authority Bus Terminal, New York City. And the first devotee he saw were on 8th Street in a massive kirtan, the street that most attracted people who wanted to play music and drop out of society, that was sending young kids off to corrupt Vietnam War. He took a class on Hatha-yoga and then became attracted to Bhakti-yoga, especially through the Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu and Bhagavad-gita as it is. Then he joined in 1972 in Brooklyn, New York, when Srila Prabhupada departed in November 1977. He gravitated towards Srila Bhakti-raksaka Sridhara Maharaj. And when Maharaj departed, Prabhuji took shelter of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaja, whom he served from 1990 to 2010, and continued to serve him through publications. Srila Gurudev really gave him his first big editing job by asking him to translate and edit Manah-siksa, followed by other beautiful books of rasa. So we are very fortunate to have Prabhuji with us today. I've been seeing Prabhuji from 90s on almost all the parikramas, but I hadn't had much fortune to have a word with him or talk with him. He is so senior, and we were like young boys that time. But I've been seeing him for a long time. And last month only, I think 2-3 weeks back, I went to Vrindavan and I happened to meet him. And he very graciously agreed to come on the program. So today we are going to hear from him how he came and how we can hear something about Srila Prabhupada also, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, also something about Pujapad Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu Sridhara Maharaj. But he's going to speak about Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu Sridhara Maharaj separately on the Stithi, which is coming very soon. So today we like to concentrate mostly on our Srila Gurudev and maybe some part on Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. So Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam and welcome to this program, Fond Memories of Srila Gurudev. So let's hear from your story, how you came to Gurudev and how he blessed you.
Okay. You can hear me now clearly?
Yes, Prabhuji, very clearly. Perfect.
So, first I'll offer my innumerable prostrated obeisance to my Harinam and Diksha Guru Nitya Leela Pavashtam Sripad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad. The same unlimited prostrated obeisance to my Shiksha Gurus Nitya Leela Pavashtam Sripad Srila Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu Goswami. To our beloved Nitya Leela Pavashtam Sripad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. And to all the assembled devotees that are listening, and especially you and the Vaishnavas. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words on Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj.
One more, I'll stop you for a moment. I like to say something for our Hindi listeners. We have arranged for a translation of this talk by Prabhuji in Hindi. जो लोग हमारे हिंदी श्रोतागण हैं और हिंदी में सुनना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए हमने व्यवस्था करी है हिंदी में सुनने के लिए. मैं अभी एक लिंक शेयर करूंगा यहाँ पर भी और ग्रुप के अंदर भी, जिसके ऊपर क्लिक करके आप हिंदी में फेसबुक पे जाके प्रभु जी की सारी बातों को हिंदी में सुन सकते हैं. Thank you, Prabhuji. Your translation is available. That's what I wanted to say to everyone. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, Prabhuji. So actually, it's Sadhu Sangha brings you to Sadhu Sangha. So I was very fortunate that after, even when the presence of Srila Sridhara Maharaj, that I came to Gurudev through another godbrother of mine, Sadhu Sangha. So it's very important to understand that Shasta, Sadhu and Guru, the Chitte Te Kota Aika, as Narottam Thakur so clearly explains. Without Sadhu's association, you will not get even higher association like that. So Sadhu Sangha is very important. How I came to Gurudev was very mysterious, you know. But I first heard him, Srila Gurudev, when our Srila Prabhupada departed. I heard him chanting, Jaya Nilo Premadana, Karuna Prachur. Prabhu Kota Agela Thakur. This kirtan like that was very, very, how do you say, powerful in my heart. And my godbrother at that time, Praraka, who became Pran Kishore, we actually came to India together. And I stayed at Srila Sridhara's mat in Navadvip, and he stayed in Vrindavan. And he came in contact with Srila Narayana Maharaj, and he eventually brought me to Srila Gurudev. And the amazing thing was that in Navadvip, I was in Navadvip, there was a huge kirtan outside of Srila Sridhara Maharaj's mat. And then we looked outside, and it was Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj in a huge kirtan. So one of the devotees, he went outside and he grabbed Srila Narayana Maharaj's hand and brought him in. So then he came up and he went up the stairs and he showed his obeisances to Srila Maharaj. And then he came downstairs and I looked at him and I thought, oh, this is the devotee that was, chanting in Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, Jayanila Premadana. So that was the first contact that I ever saw of Srila Gurudev. So is that too much right now to translate? Is it okay?
I think it's simultaneous.
Simultaneous translation?
I was muted. Yes, it is simultaneous translation on other Facebook page. So you don't have to wait. You can continue speaking your thoughts. No problem.
Okay, nice, very nice. I like that.
Because we don't want to interrupt. Otherwise, the thoughts get distracted.
Yes, very good.
You continue speaking.
So anyway, when I came to Srila Narayana Maharaj, I actually came in first time in 87. In 87, we came to the Keshav Gaudiya Math during Kartik. And at that time, Gurudev, Srila Narayana Maharaj, he put us in the room and he said, oh, this is where Swami Maharaj, he stayed. This is Praraka, Pran Kishore and I, we stayed in this room. This is the first meeting of, actually, I had exchange with Srila Narayana Maharaj. At that time, I started feeling a little sick during Kartik. And he said, I will take you to good doctor. I said, okay, that's nice. So then he came and we got in the car, Pran Kishore, we got in the car and we took off and we went to a kirtan, big kirtan there in Mathura. So we had a long kirtan and after it was over, I asked Srila Gurudev at that time, I said, I thought you were going to take me to the doctor. And Srila Gurudev says, you did not hear the doctor? The doctor was big kirtan. So I kind of laughed and it was true that the kirtan was a beautiful kirtan, the Srila Narayana Maharaj was leading, etc. like that. So it was an exchange like that, a very warm exchange. And I asked him one question he asked me what I was doing. I told him I was translating Navadvip Dhammahatmya from Bengali into English. And I asked him a question about, a question about Viraha, etc. like that. And he very nicely explained. And so anyway, that was the first actually contact that I had with Srila Narayana Maharaj. After Srila Maharaj departed, Pran Kishore and I came to Gurudev, Srila Gurudev, and at that time, I wanted to do some service for Gurudev. So he asked, what do you want to do? I said, well, whatever you want me to do. He said, well, it's up to you. So eventually it came to the point, he said, okay, then you can start working on Manah-siksa with this other devotee. That was the first deep translation and project that I got involved with. So we started working on that. Before I had done a little bit of editing and proofreading with Prem Vilas. We were working on some of Gurudev's earlier books.
So Prabhuji, you were translating from Hindi to English or Bangla to English?
It was from Bengali to English first, and then I was working with Premananda just on Prem Vilas on English, and he was doing the Hindi.
Oh, okay. So
And
that
he
means you know
reminded-
good Bengali. You're good at Bengali. That means.
I mean, Johnny Mangala.
Wow. And Hindi also?
First, you see, Bengali was sweet. I was very, very fortunate. One time I was, in Barsana, in Gurudev, he marked that, he said Hindi, it is the older sister of Sanskrit. Sanskrit comes from Sanskrit. He said,
Yes.
Hindi is the older sister. Bengali is younger sister. So which is sweeter? He said, younger sister is sweeter. And I said, Bengali. So I was more attracted to Bengali, actually, and things like that. Even Hindi, I thought Hindi is kind of a hard language. But then when you hear Braj Boli with the Hindi, and you think, wow, there's both of them are sweet. Like that. So it's very beautiful like that. So anyway, that was actually the first type of, deep connection, because Srila Maharaj, she remarked about how in the Bhagavad-gita, it said that Tadvidi Pranipatena Padaprasnena Sevaya Upadeksanti Te Gyanas Gyaninas Tattvadarshana. He said that seva is the connection, the real connection, actually. So that connection with Gurudev started with that service like that. And I always prayed for doing service and run the publications, of course, because I had started out trying to understand what a poet was. And that year at Kartik, when I went with Gurudev, I was riding in the car to Gurudev, and Gurudev said, what did you do in your previous life? And I said, Gurudev, I was a poet. And he got surprised. And I didn't know later that his mother was so much into poetry, and he was so much attracted to it like that. So I started to understand that, how Vaishnavas, they're natural poets. They know poetry deeply, because that actually, it says in Shastra, Chandak, it says Chandak Pado to Vedasya. It says that Chanda poetry is the support, or the feet, the support of all the Vedas. So it mentions like that. And so I could see, like, Gurudev had a certain way of speaking, was very poetic, very nice, he was very attractive. So when I heard him speaking, when I first came to Mathura like that, he was giving classes on Bhagavad-gita, which was remarkable, because I thought, well, this is the book that I really wanted to understand more, Bhagavad-gita. And he was giving sweet Harikatha. And then I asked one devotee, is he speaking in Bengali or is he speaking in Hindi? I can't. He goes, he's back and forth. But his Hindi is like Bengali. So he speaks Bengali like a Hindu, like that, a Hindustani, So it was like, they were laughing like that. And Gurudev, actually, his Bengali was very sweet, but his Hindi was even more sweet. He was like mixing it, like Krishnadas Kaviraj goes on. So anyway, that was actually the first parikrama that I went on with Gurudev. That parikrama in Kartik, when we spent 2 weeks, and it was just Pran Kishore and I together. We went riding in this car, and Gurudev was showing us different places.
Which year was that, Prabhuji?
That was actually just after Srila Maharaj left. It was on 89, I think 89 and 90, like that. It was very
You
early.
must be the only Western devotees, I think, that time.
What's that?
You must be the only Western devotees that time, probably.
There were actually three that were going to. At that time, there was Prangishore, and there was another devotee. He was a sannyasi. His name was Venkat. He took sannyas from Srila Maharaj. And we were all going to him at that time. But it was very sweet. It was very sweet. So, I mean, and at that time, I didn't know how elevated Srila Gurudev was, because I was still attached to Srila Maharaj, and I did not see him as a guru. I see him as just an older Gaudiya Vaishnava. So I was calling Maharaj, Maharaj, so like that. It didn't hit me till later that it was a continuation of what Shiksha Guru was, Shiksha Guru was very deep, and I didn't actually understand what Shiksha Guru meant at that time. But by coming to Gurudev, I actually learned what Shiksha Guru was, because Srila Maharaj gave us the book, Sri Guru and His Grace, which was a remarkable book on what Guru was, Guru Tattva. But to put it into practice like that, after Srila Maharaj, what do I do? Where do I go? He was such a prominent high Vaishnava, So anyway, so Srila Gurudev, that was basically the first parikrama that we went on. It was with Gurudev to different places explaining it. So, and what attracted us mostly was Gurudev's kirtan too. His powerful kirtan, very powerful kirtan. Because I always recalled it from when Srila Prabhupada left to the time I heard it outside of Srila Maharaj's mat. I was amazed because he was chanting outside his mat, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati mat in Navadip. And I was wondering who that was. It was Gurudev, chanting his powerful verse. So anyway, when I finally came to Gurudev like that, and by naturally doing service for him, because Prangishore and I helped collect a lot of Lakshmi for the building of Sri Rup Sanatana Gaudiya Math. And I was in Navadip at one time where I went to see Srila Puri Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj, with one other devotee, Paramadriti Maharaj. And we went to talk to Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj, and after the talk, he said he was going to go to Mathura, and then Vrindavan, he was going to help to open the Rup Sanatana Gaudiya Math at that time. So that was really remarkable too. Maybe these very coincidental things like that kept happening like that. And so then I came there. At that time I was married, and I had two children that came to Mathura. And then what happened is my wife, she was also looking for a guru at that time. So what happened was that we came to Gurudev, and she became attracted. So then I asked Gurudev, I said, could we stay in the mat here in Mathura? And he said, I thought he would say, well, you're a householder, we're all brahmacharis, etc., like that. But he said, yes, you can stay. And I said, well, Gurudev, I was surprised. I said, where would I stay? You stay in this room right here. It's on the top floor on the corner. And I thought, wow. I thought he would say, no, you're a householder, you stay outside. But he was very immediately. So the next day, we packed all of our bags up. My little child was Janava. She was only about 6-7 months old, And then Madhavi, Jai Shri, all the kids are very young. But anyway, we came to the mat there. And when we got there, all of a sudden they started bringing all the bags in. And the brahmacharis are watching all the bags go up the stairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turned out there was about 20 or 30 big bags. And I thought, oh my gosh. So they put them in that room, that little room in the corner like that. And we all stayed in that room and we started to hear Gurudev every day give darshan. It was very beautiful, actually, very sweet. It was early days, you know. So then I started thinking, this is not correct. I mean, we're householders. We have to move outside. We have to live someplace. So I thought, well, I looked around in Mathura at that time and I couldn't find any place. You know, I thought, well, maybe Gurudev wouldn't mind if I went to Vrindavan, because I really want to go to Vrindavan. So at that time I came to Rup Sanatan and I stayed in one room in Rup Sanatan, and overnight, while I was staying in the room, all of a sudden the whole presence of the room, I started feeling Gurudev's presence. And then I woke up the next morning and I thought, this is the start of the meaning of another, you know, what I call Shiksha Guru. He's everywhere. So when I went back to tell Gurudev that I want to move to Rup Sanatan, he says, yes, why not? He says, you should move to Vrindavan. This is Kamsa's place here in Mathura. You go to Vrindavan. I thought, wow. He says, that's very nice. I said, but Gurudev, we won't have your association. He said, no, I'm always in Vrindavan. No problem, no problem. So like that. And that was really remarkable too. So we went to Rup Sanatan and we started to stay there. And we got even more. I felt more of the blessings of Gurudev rather than just living in his close presence like that. So now I got to see actually more of this feeling of separation and meeting, you know, from Gurudev. And at that time, I wanted some service too. So I went down to Radha Damodar. I would go there daily in Radha Damodar and do parikrama. And then I would go into the room and I'd pray to Prabhupada for some service to Prabhupada also. So then one day I was praying to the Murti of Prabhupada. And then what happened was our Gopi Janabalabha was in a sevak there. He came in the room and he asked me, he said, you want to do some service for Prabhupada? I said, yeah, sure. So I said, wow. I said, and then he said, you can sweep every day the room. So I started to sweep the room in Radha Damodar. And remarkable was we started to discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita and what Shiksha Guru means. And at that time I invited, I wanted Gurudev to come there and speak also. So he did. He came there and spoke one day. And what happened was he came up and he gave Gopi Janabalava a garland also. And his connection started. Is it?
It's fine.
It's fine? So anyway, that like that. So Gopi then joined the mob.
Prabhuji, you went on mute somehow. You can unmute yourself.
What's that say?
Yeah, you're on mute for some time. Can you just repeat the last two sentences?
So anyway, there was a room also up on top of Rup Sanatan, and Gurudev came there. And at the time the Rup Sanatan was being built, there was a little room in the corner there. And Gurudev came up and he looked at the corner and he says, oh, you will stay here. I thought, yeah, in that little room. So anyway, there was like sweet exchanges from Gurudev like that. It started. So what happened was eventually the first actually parikrama that I really went on the whole parikrama. It was with my little daughter, Janava. She was very young, so I'd carry her on my back. And Gurudev was very, very fond of her, because she was always coming down every morning when we stayed in Mathur, in Mangalartik, she wouldn't sleep. She'd wake up and she'd want to go to Mangalartik. So we bring her down on my backpack, and at the end of Artik, she'd raise her hands like this here, and all the devotees would say like that. So then on the Parikrama here, on Govardhan Parikrama, when she saw Gurudev, she'd raise her hands like this here. Gurudev he loved her very much. And actually, she learned the kirtan from just listening to the devotees there in Mathur and Gurudev. So anyway, it was very sweet exchange like that. So that first parikrama. So then what happened is we felt that we wanted to go back to the West to actually inform devotees more about Gurudev, like that, to bring them to hear from him, because his talks were very remarkable. At that time, he was speaking a lot about rasa tattva, and what the meaning of Rasik Vaishnava is, and Bhavik Vaishnava. So it was actually very sweet to understand, oh, if you don't hear from Rasik Vaishnava, then you're not really properly chanting, because it's said that Jiva Goswami says if you chant Harinam, you should be thinking of the pastimes of Krishna, and Srimati Radhika especially. So in that sense, and then we started to think more of what the chanting was. So then that's in we first, Gurudev says, well, what is the meaning of Hariram? What is the meaning of Hariram? He said, well, Prabhupada's, my Guru Maharaj said it can mean Balaram, it can mean Ramachandra. And Gurudev says, no, it means Radhika Raman. He said, oh, acha, now we know. Gurudev's focused like that. So that was very sweet. So, and then when people chant, Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bo, you'd always think, oh, Gurudev is there. So from that, I got my service for Gurudev, which was very sweet. It was very sweet because he asked me what I wanted to do, And the remarkable thing was that I told him I was a writer before, so he asked me to help with the translation. So I worked with Janaki Devi on Manah-siksa. And the nice thing that we did, we would look at the Bengali word for word from Srila Maharaj and put it into Manah-siksa. So we actually got the word for word from Srila Maharaj in the translation. It was all from
I've seen this English Manah-siksa is much thicker than the Hindi one, and it's got much more details, like from Bhaktivedanta Thakur and other thing, the poetry from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is not there in the Hindi one actually.
Yeah, it's remarkable, because he put so much more into it, The Bhaktivedanta Thakur was the purpose and things. So it was really a wonderful meditation, and that's where it started like that. So from there, Gurudev asked me, well, about doing a magazine. So I told him, well, I don't know really what you want what's your idea, but let me think about it. Anyway, he was talking about the harmonist, like that, because I always wanted to bring a lot of the gurus together, and you see they were one big family, like Gurudev, his whole mood was like that. We're one big family. So then all of a sudden I said, well, we could do this book, Our Harmonists. And I said, well, what should we name it, Gurudev? And he said, well, you can call it The Rays of the Harmonists. So that's, he actually gave the name, and it fit perfectly because you had all the different gurus and things like that. And, so then the first edition of the Harmonist came out, and it came out. Gurudev was very happy with it. he was very happy with it, and I showed it to him. He looked at it, and it was a picture of Srila Keshav Maharaj or Srila Bhaktivedanta on the cover. So it started like that, and the harmonist was with Kalia, Damana, and me, and some other proofreaders like Madhurika and Sagar Maharaj, who at that time was not Maharaj, he was different. Janardani he was called. But we all did started doing the harmonist like that, the rays of the harmonist. And Gurudev was very pleased with that magazine. And, so that took a lot of my time. So I was working on the harmonist, and then we were working on the Manah-siksa, and then the Bhagavad-gita I was working on with at that time. And Gurudev had gone on his tour, 1996. So when he came back, he asked me what I was doing. And I told him, well, Gurudev, I was working on, Bhagavad-gita, I was working on the harmonist, I was working on this other book. And he said, oh, you're doing so much. I said, okay. So I turned over the Gita to, at that time, to Tridandi Maharaj. We did a really nice, hymn. And I think Hari Priya also helped in the translation. I helped with the introduction and the last part. But it was a remarkable feat because, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary was never given, the Bhagavad Gita like that. And I continued on the harmonist like that until year 2000. In 2000, what happened was it was difficult because I had to come back and forth from America to India like that. So what happened was we were running out of funds. So they stopped the funding of the harmonist like that when I was in India. So I had to go back to America. So that was one of the last issues that we put forward in 2000. It was called a graceful change of heart. 2000 like that. Fully worked on. It was, I think this is actually, so this, the graceful change of heart.
This is the last one.
Yeah. You see it? You had that issue? And then in it, he had the last Vyasa Puja.
Oh, the 20th century.
20th century. Who was that by? You see?
Yes.
Maharaj. That was 1999. And it was very nice. The last Vyasa Puja of the 20th century. He's very beautiful. It was very beautiful. It was like, he told so many things in this Vyasa Puja.
Now all these are available online, right? On purebhakti.com. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We can't hear you somehow. Hello, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Oh. Hare Krishna. I think Prabhuji's connection is frozen. The rays of the harmonist which Prabhuji is showing, all these are available on our website, purebhakti.com, and we can go there and read them, all of them actually. I think he is disconnected. He will join us very soon. Yes, he's back. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Yes, you got disconnected somehow.
Yes. So
Why
the last
it is not straight, the picture?
Yeah, Is it not straight?
Yeah, turn it around maybe. Yes, now it's good, yes.
It's hard to see it.
Can you lower the camera a little bit, Prabhuji? Yeah, so that we can see the full image, yeah.
Maybe you can hold it for a second. Okay.
Yes,
Is that okay?
Yes, much better, very nice.
Okay. So what are we talking about? That was last Vyas Puja of the 20th century, was December 31st, 1999. And Srila Maharaj, he spoke it. It was a beautiful, beautiful discourse. It sounded almost like Pavan, and it gave perfectly what Vyas Puja means. I don't know if you have a copy of it, but in it he says generally like someone's birthday and the titi are different. But in Paramarthik Bhasha, or spiritual jargon like Janma Titi, the appearance day is also called Vyasa Puja.
Yes.
Or Guru Puja. He said every sannyasi on his own appearance day will worship his previous spiritual masters or Guru Varg. In India, such a phenomenon as the appearance day or the Avirbhav day has always been prominent. Thus, we see that our past Guru Varg has always been worshipped by us. In Vyasa Puja, we can understand generally that it is Vyasadeva who is worshipped on that day. But during Vyasa Puja, the ceremony of Puja Panchaka is conducted. And Puja Panchaka, that was the first time actually I heard it, and I did not know what it meant until Gurudev came out with his biography about the different Puja Panchaka, the different categories of gurus.
Yes.
So this is the first mention of it here by Srila Maharaj. And he said, this is also pasana or worship of the Guru Varga. So in the Gaudiya Math especially, they worship on this day the 5 different acharyas. And there's different categories. And the thing about it was, when we do Vyasa Puja in the Gaudiya Math, we offer all the articles first. So I did not know anything about this because I was coming from ISKCON, and I thought Guru Puja meant, Shri Guru Charana Padma, and we'd offer like incense and do article like that. But there was no previous way to do it, articles. So one day, one devotee, Mula Prakriti, it was the appearance day of Prabhupada, and we were going to do a Vyas Puja, and I was standing there with her, and Gurudev was sitting there, and she said, Gurudev, could you do a Vyas Puja for Srila Prabhupada, on the way it's supposed to be done? So Gurudev looked at me and he says, oh, he can do it. So I said, yeah, I can do it. So the next day, we, Prabhupada's appearance day, we came and I set the articles all up. And then Gurudev came in and sat down on the Vyasadhan, and then he asked Brajanath, he said, ask Tirthpada, he said, is everything ready? And Brajanath, pointed and told one devotee, and the devotee asked me, and I said, yeah. So I took the bell and I started to do the incense. And Gurudev stopped. He said, wait. He said, stop. He said, is the articles offered? I said, Gurudev, no, I didn't know you had the articles too, And Gurudev got up off the vyasa and he came over. He offered the articles, and like the Gaudiya Math does, and then he started to do the puja like that. So anyway, then he came back and he sat down and he looked over and he said, tell Tirthpada to sing samsara. So when he told me that, I froze up. So then I looked at Nanda Kishore and I said, you chant, Tridandi Maharaj. And so he chanted that day. But then after that, Gurudev looked over and he told me, he said, now Tirthpada Jaidvani. And then I froze again. Because well, should I say Srila Maharaj first? Should I say Srila Prabhupada first? Should I say Gurudev? I was like, what to do? So I got froze. And then Gurudev looked over and he saw me hesitating like that, freezing up. And then Gurudev jumped up off the Vyasa side and he ran to the room, in front of his room, and he sat down. And everybody's looking over, what happened? What happened? And I thought, oh my God, I offended the Gurudev. So I got up and I went over to Gurudev and like, Gurudev, I said, I'm sorry, why'd you get so upset, He said, oh, don't worry. I'm just trying to help you, you have to learn these things. So that was quite amazing. That's the first really deep understanding. Wow, Vyasa Puja is not just a offering of incense and flowers, It's like that. So Vyasa Puja is very, very deep, And I saw one devotee of Srila Puri Maharaj do it very elaborately, all the different gurus and things like that. And you can go for hours like that, because Vyasa Puja means that the guru is just like Vyasadeva. In Vyasadeva, as they say, there's something like 24 Vyasadevas, but the thing about Vyasadeva, he should be qualified. So one devotee who got initiated, first thing Gurudev said was Tasmad Guru Vigyartam. Vigyartam, like this verse here. Tad Vigyartam. Sa Guru Meva Vikache. Samiponi. He said that a person who is desirous of his welfare, in order to obtain direct realization of the supreme absolute reality, Bhagavat Tattva Vastu, Vigyan, said Bhagavat Tattva Vastu Vigyan. Very nice. He said practical knowledge directed towards Prem Bhakti. Prem Bhakti. So when we were editing actually Venu-gita also, that came up, that actually it was talking about how you receive this knowledge. And Gurudev, it was the first time I heard that, Prem is coming down first. It's not that you have to get rid of all your narthas and then Prem will come. The Prem will enter the heart and it clear all the narthas away. That's actually real Vigyan. Real Vigyan. So if we understand that, properly, then this will easily help us out. But like when we sang Si Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakata Sadhana, what does Kevala Bhakata mean? It's pure devotion, and it's not tainted by anything. So when Gurudev went to the West, when he went to the West, he would start off with that verse, Anyabhila Shita Shunya, Jnana Karma Jnavritam, Anukulyena Krishna, Nushilanam Bhakti. And in that verse, he said, what does Anu mean? Anu. He says, you should follow in the footsteps of the Rasik Vaishnavas, the Bhavu Bhaktis, the pure devotees, Shuddha Bhakti. So Kevala Bhakti means Shuddha Bhakti, Shuddha devotion service. Our sadhana should be Shuddha Bhakti. And the go, Sajya, Tat Priti, is Priti, which is actually Prema Bhakti. But first, you would come to the level of Bhava Bhakti, like that. And then when I started to gradually hear Gurudev's classes every Kartik like that, we would see Gurudev was always stressing these two things especially, that what is prem, that it's not just a simple understanding of love. We should understand what prem, sneho, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhava, mahabhav, ruda, adiruda, and madan, akya mahabhav, what actually pure love is. So we know that then this will purify our hearts easily. This is Shuddha Bhakti. This is practice of Shuddha Bhakti. What is prem? What is sneha? In sneha, our affection should go in a certain way. So Gurudev, he said our affection should go towards Srimati Radhika. Sneha. That type of affection. Like that. Rag, etc. like that. And then when Gurudev would started to speak on this more, he started to explain the verse of Anarpitacharim Chara. Karuna Yavati Unakalo, Samarpayatu Munato Jalarasam Sabhakti Shriyam. Haripura Sundara Dyuti Siddha. Nipita Siddhahriya Kandare Spuritu Vakshachinandana. So one day I was actually given that verse, and I said, Siddhahriya Kandare Spuritu Nakshachinandana. And Gurudev kind of looked at me and he said, it is Vak. I said, but Gurudev, I heard Srila Sridhara said one time, Nak. So Gurudev, anytime I would say, oh, Srila Sridhara said this, it's okay, no problem. So, Nak means to us. Srila Sridhara said it out humbly, but in the verse, actually, it's Vak. Vak Shachinandana. So I actually like Nak Sanandana in one sense. So Gurudev didn't object, and he was like that, like the verse. Gurudev would always say, Tavaivasmi, Najivami Tvaivina, Iti Vidyaya, Devi Tvam, Nayamam Charana. He would not say Devi, he would say Radhe. You see? So more and more specific, Gurudev would get like that. It shows that this is we have to become like one-pointed in that way, So what happened is one time in Hawaii too, he was asking different devotees how to, speak a few words. Why have I came here? Why have you brought me to Hawaii like that? So then he asked me, and I told him, well, Gurudev, I said, I started to say that, well, you actually came and cleared more what the meaning of Guru means, my relationship with Prabhupada. And I said, not only that, my relationship with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And then I started to say, so I can't repay you, I cannot repay you. And then I kind of lost my voice and started to choke up, and Gurudev said, okay, all right. And so then other devotees spoke, and then after he spoke, then he looked back at me and said, the way you repay me is to help my devotees. So he told me that. So that I felt was a general instruction for all devotees, of course. Because if we really want to please Gurudev, we help his devotees, like that. And then I remember later on that verse was in 10th canto, Naparayeham Niravadya Samnijam. That the gopis actually told that. I can't repay you. Krishna told the gopis, I can't repay you. You've given up everything like that. Niravadya Samnijam. There's nothing any higher like that. So Gurudev brought us into that conception of what our real attachment was. Is ekras, anekras. Krishna has anekras and ekras. He's one point, but he owes so much to so many devotees. But the gopis, they're ekras. You see, they're fixed only on Krishna, Radha Krishna, like that, serving them, bringing them together. So Gurudev brought us into that conception of what real prem was, what real love was. And I'm feeling very, very, indebted in that sense to work hard on his publications. So the remarkable thing was that when Srila Sridhar Maharaj was speaking, he would speak on, a lot of times he would speak on Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And I did not know about that book until I came to Gurudev. So when I came to Gurudev, he was lecturing that on Hindi on Bhagavad-gita. And that's the first time that I heard, wow, there's a person who's speaking on Bhagavad-gita, which I really wanted to know more about. Before Gurudev departed from the world, he gave me this assignment to do Bhagavad-gita. And I thought, that's amazing coincidence. Everything, Gurudev knows the heart of all the devotees. So he knows if devotees really want to enter into Raganuga Bhakti, they should actually understand what the different levels of devotees are and the different levels of planets are, etc. like that. And this book is really very important. So he gave me that mercy to help do this book like that. So anyway, I mean, in those sense, I thought Gurudev was always helping me and to go forward like that. So, but unfortunately, he asked me several times to take sannyas, but I could not take sannyas. One time he told me, you should take sannyas. And I told him, well, Gurudev, Srila Sridhara said, you can't take sannyas. And I looked at Srila Sridhara and I said, what do you mean? He says, you don't take sannyas. The Guru gives it his mercy. It's his mercy. You get it from by mercy, not just take like that. So in that sense, I said, amazing, You hear Gurudev, he appreciated those type of, very precise definitions of words and stuff like that. So, so when Gurudev, he analyzed that verse in Narpitacharyam, and he gave it such a nice interpretation of Unato Jala Rasam Sabhakti Shriyam. Such a nice interpretation. It just, that was all there is. It's everything is in that verse. And Gurudev just showed us that this is the highest, our conception of what Manjari is. And it took me back to the days where I was actually heard Gurudev when he sang that particular verse, when Prabhupada departed, they had Gurudev singing, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, like that. And he'd go very high, and it's like amazing, very powerful, very powerful. And it just pulled me right into the whole conception. And what does it mean? Sri Guru Charana, Sri Guru, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, say more Sambhada. Say more Sambhada. It's the highest well. Yeah. The whole verse is this remarkable. Actually, Srila Sridhara said that verse should be sung, especially on the days of the disappearance of acharyas. But other days, he said, be cautious like that. And Gurudev was like, that day it was remarkable. That brought me to tears when he would sing that verse, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. But there he's explaining it in Narpitacharya Charat. This is actually what Mahaprabhu is giving us. He's giving us the highest. You're following the footsteps of Shri Rupa Manjari, Shri Rupa Goswami, like that. And then what more, Gurudev, we go to Radha Damodar, and then in Radha Damodar, Gurudev remarks, he goes, so which is more important? Following Shri Rupa Manjari or Shri Rupa Goswami? So everybody thought, well, of course, Shri Rupa Manjari we follow. He says, no. He says, you cannot follow Rupa Manjari, you can follow Rupa Goswami, but you cannot follow Rupa Manjari. So he said he is very important. He's more important right now, the sadhak stage, you see? So those things, Gurudev was so sharp like that, so keen. And from those different types of incidents, I understood this is a pure devotee. This is a pure devotee. If whatever conception people would say about Gurudev, he would always hone it down and bring it back to the feet of Srimati Radhika and bring it back to Manjari Bhav. It's like that. It was like it was remarkable. So in that sense, Gurudev became what you would call my Raganuga Guru, my Raganuga Guru. Because the thing is he gave everything that is that you need. You don't need anything else. What Gurudev gave, you do your sadhana and you do it what Gurudev said. Just the other day, I picked up some of the earlier lectures of Gurudev, and I was looking at him. I'm thinking, oh my God. It says Gurudev gave us so much. It's in so much deep harikatha. You could spend your whole lifetime just reading these notes, lectures that Gurudev gave. So in that sense, how can I repay Gurudev? Should I all of a sudden forget what he's given me and then go to someplace else? People go to now. A lot of people think, well, I need to go to the Babaji's. Why? Gurudev has given you everything; it's already there. Right? So they think, okay, well, this Babaji or that Babaji, he's talking about Siddha Pranali. But the thing is what about your sadhana? How has Gurudev said? You do it gradually, that will all manifest. So Gurudev, he warned us against that. He warned us against trying to move too fast. So one time there was one devotee and Gurudev came back from his tour and he says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm trying to translate Ujjvala Nilamani. He says, oh. Then he says, you're reading? You're reading? I said, yes, I'm reading Ujjvala Nilamani, Gurudev. He said, oh, you're reading it? And I could see something, something's up. And then Gurudev, all of a sudden, he says, you're not reading. I said, what do you mean, Gurudev? He says, you have to go, and he raised his leg up, and you get to go step by step by step. He said, if you jump too high, you will fall down. Too quickly, you will fall down. So he said, gradually it will come like that. So in that sense, the real rasa comes through your Gurudev and real association of sadhus. It's not that, all of a sudden we will get Siddha Banali and then therefore we meditate on our Siddha, Sarup, or Sarup Siddha. No, it doesn't work like that. Srila Maharaj says the mind is material. Huh? So how can the material meditate on the spiritual thing? How can it enter into that realm? See, it's material. So you have to leave your mind, you leave your intelligence. That's not the qualification. It's faith. Faith. Ado shada tatak sadhu sangata bhajana kriya. The second is sadhu sangha is very important. Association of real sadhu. First, you get the association of sadhu and then shastra, but the association of sadhu, real association, that connection comes with bhajana kriya. He shows you the activities of bhajan. And if you do your bhajan properly, which Gurudev stressed, our bhajan even more important than archan. That if you know what bhajan is, you do it properly, then all this will come. It's not that all of a sudden you get the direct method of siddha by meditating on some manjari form and think that, that's the path. No, that's not. Vaguely what it is. But I remember one time, this was kind of funny. It was actually, one time there was a lecture given Srila Prabhupada in America. There was one black person that came there. And he looked and he saw that, he said, your Krishna, your God is black. And Prabhupada says, yes, he is black, but not like you. So he was saying that. So the thing is like that color of Krishna, the color of Krishna why he wears a peacock feather, all these pastimes that we go through when we went on Purkama with Gurudev. So remarkable, Then they became really alive, You go to all these different places. Why Krishna had a peacock feather, why he was, blue, why the deity all of a sudden was white. Radha Chinta Niveshena Yasha Kanti Vilopita. Why? We're very fortunate to be here at Imlitala. Very fortunate. Why? At this place, it's pointed out, this is the center of Gaur Tattva. This is actually the beginning of Gaur Tattva. And I actually had the fortune of sitting down with Gurudev at Imlitala over there. And he was explaining how, Krishna came here one time and he was meditating on Srimati Radhika. And as he meditated on Srimati Radhika, Krishna's blackness started becoming golden. Like that. Mahaprabhu came there, he sat there, and he's meditating on Srimati Radhika and Krishna. And Mahaprabhu, and in his color, because externally he's golden, his color starts to become blackish. So it's like that. They're one. They're one. One time Gurudev asked me, so Krishna and Radha, when did they begin? They're eternally one. So this Radha Chinta Niveshena Yasha Kanti Vilopita. Sri Krishna Charanam Bande Radha Linkito. He was explaining that my Gurudev was very, very rasic. He knew what happened. Over here, next door, we have Radha Krishna, blackish, and Radha is golden. But here, Gurudev established Radha and Krishna, and Krishna is white. So it's really nice that we have next to each other, that juxtaposition of that what's going on. So in that sense, I had the fortune of Gurudev explaining that to me in Imlitala like that. And this is what was amazing about Gurudev, that he got devotees so much into going on parikram in these different places for the pastimes that you could not help but chant Hare Krishna and think of the pastimes. So Jiva Goswami says that is the proper way to chant Hare Krishna. Not just simply you chant Hare Krishna and you count rounds. As Srila Sridhara said, it's like shooting blanks, So in that sense, without the pure devotee following in their footsteps like Srila Gurudev, like Srila Prabhupada, was in the same line, Srila Sridhara Maharaj, same line, and Srila Gurudev, then we can't actually come to the highest realization. And the thing about our Gaudiya Math, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Math, is given it very purely and very easily. It's not that we have to try to receive something that we're not qualified for. It'll come as we become qualified. And it surely will come. Because we can understand that everybody, when Gurudev departed, all of us devotees, we got a particular thing within our heart. So I don't reveal this very much to anybody, but when Gurudev departed, I remember one time Gurudev, he told me, he says, why can't you be strong and take, like Dunda was saying, why you can't be strong like me and leave family, etc. like that. I said, well, Gurudev, I don't have the samskara that you have. I'm not ready to take sannyas. But, at the time, Gurudev was leaving. It was very remarkable because I was with Sadhu Maharaj, Sagar Maharaj at that time. And we had just came back from Puri, and Gurudev had, as soon as we got back from Puri, practically the next day, maybe 2-3 days, Gurudev departed. you know. And we thought, wow, we just got back from Puri, seeing Gurudev. So we rushed to Calcutta, you know, to get on the plane in Delhi and flew to Calcutta, got there. We arrived just at the time Gurudev had arrived from Puri. And Gurudev was, they had put Gurudev in the temple room there. And so we went up, and I was really shocked that I didn't really feel like I got the last message from Gurudev. Like, what would he tell me, you know? What would I do? It's like that. So we chanted for a long time, and then I got tired, and I went back to the room, and I fell asleep for a few minutes. And then I remember that Gurudev, actually, he appeared in my mind, my dream, that he was holding a danda, and he had a red dress on. So then he entered into the samadhi. And then I woke up and I said, what? What was that all about? So it was remarkable. So the next day, when they were putting Gurudev in the samadhi, I was standing there with one devotee, Adi Pavan, and he called me in to help do the first puja of Gurudev in the samadhi there. And I was standing there with him. It was really very unbelievable. I couldn't adjust myself that here Gurudev wanted so many things from me that I couldn't really fulfill, you know. So, but still, he was saying he was still with you, and to go on, to keep going. You know, because I'd always ask Gurudev, he'd ask me, he says, how are you? Oh, Gurudev, I am okay, but you know, when you leave, you know, I feel like very weak. And Gurudev would always say, you should always think I am with you, always, like that. And finally, it started registering in my heart like that. Gurudev was always with you. You should always feel that your Gurudev was with you. You know, and it's not just a simple light instruction like that. You know, it's very deep, because our guru, it's not a matter of, oh, that you need a living guru. Guru is always living. But Shiksha Guru, very, very helpful. But you don't have to run here and there looking for a new Shiksha Guru. Your Guru will be provided for. Your sincere Shiksha Gurudev will provide you with more association like that. By your, you know, the mercy of other sadhus. Sadhu Shastra Guru. Chitete Kori Aika. Then you'll see that they're one in heart. Like that. But what Gurudev gave us, it's so many instructions like that, and we meditate just on those instructions. It's remarkable what he gave us. I can say it's a chencha. You can't imagine, you know, how much depth he went into bringing us into that one pointed, you know, meditation on Srimati Radhika's lotus feet, like that. Manjari Bhav. What does it mean, Manjari Bhav? You know, it's not cheap. You know? So the thing is like, when we feel separation, more and more separation, then that will come. Only with this separation mood will this meeting come. So that's the very important thing, is that we see that when Gurudev departs, you know, we feel this separation and meeting at the same time. At the same time. Why is that? You know, Gurudev is happy, he's gone into Nitya Leela. Now he's happily dancing with Radha Krishna. You know? And we're feeling separation, but we're thinking, if we think like that, then no problem. Gurudev will bring us back home like that. So our Srila Gurudev, he gave us everything. I asked him one time, I said, that's what they say about Prabhupada, that Prabhupada gave us everything in his books. It's everything in his books. You don't have to read anything. And he said, Gurudev said, yes, he gave everything in his books, and it'll be given again. He said, and it'll be given again and again. Like that. So Gurudev was saying like that. Because then we see in the Bhagavad-gita, right, that Narada Muni, he would go from devotee to devotee, each devotee like that. And he would not see, oh, this devotee, he is higher, this devotee is lower. He would actually look at the devotee and see what mercy, try to understand what mercy he was getting. And that devotee wouldn't say, oh, I have got the mercy of my Gurudev. No, that devotee would actually feel that he did not get the mercy. You should go to this other devotee, you know. So Narada Muni went like that until he came to the last stage of the gopis. That's our goal, you know. So that's our goal. So Sanatana Goswami, he gave us that in Bhagavad-gita. And remarkably, that I feel that Gurudev gave me such mercy that, you know, at the end of my life, I can be meditating on this type of progression like that. So anyways, I'm kind of like, I guess I'm raving like a madman here, like going from point to point. But these are some of the intimate things that, you know, I could talk about Gurudev that he did. He was very, very funny too. Gurudev had such an incredible humor, you know. I could see that when he was talking with Srila Trivikram Maharaj, how they would burst out laughing, you know, and you wonder what was so hilarious, you know. But transcendental humor is like that, you know. We see that the gopis, oh yeah, the gopis are weeping, but you can imagine how much joking they had between Krishna, you know, and Gurudev would tell such beautiful pastimes of the joking pastimes between the gopis and Krishna, like that, stealing the flute, you know, the water pastimes, all these things, you know, that Gurudev gave us. We can't forget, you know. I mean, loyalty is not just a matter of words, you know. Guru Nishta is not just a matter of words. You know. The thing is we have to continue to study his words, meditate on his words like that, and practice. You know, what is prem? What is prem? What is love? You know, the whole world now is like confused. There's so much going on, all this confusion, things like that. Why? It's just to distract us from what love is. You know, what power love has over everything. Power, love is the most powerful. It's not just rules and regulations. Vaidhi Bhakti. Gurudev showed us that if you're meditating on Vaidhi Bhakti, where will you go? You know, if you meditate on simply Rukmini Dwarkadish, where will you go? Like that. He would stress that. Oh, you go to Dwarka. You go to Dwarka and you're caught up in Aishwarya and you think, oh, Aishwarya, opulence is very beautiful, it's nice and things like that. But in your heart, you're not satisfied. Rukmini Dwarkadish. No, you won't be satisfied because the highest, the most pure love is in Braj here. Not even Mathura, like that. Not even Mathura, it's in Braj here, Braj Bhakti. So Gurudev brought us right into what Braj Bhakti was, the importance of Jamuna, you know, the importance of Govardhan, like that. So Gurudev, you know, oh yes, we could go stay in Radhakund, you know, we can go stay in Radhakund, but what will you get? One time, one devotee was, we were coming back on the walk from Govardhan, and one devotee, he said, oh, Srila Narayana Maharaj, the Mahanta there in Radhakunda, is he a pure devotee? And Gurudev looked at him and he said, you go right now and you see, you go. And the devotee was like shocked. He didn't know what to do, you know. He said, and like to me, it was like, you're standing in front of a pure devotee and you're asking, is this other devotee a pure devotee? Any question you have, you have the opportunity, but you're not taking the opportunity. It's like that. So things Gurudeva like that would do like that. You know. One other kind of funny thing happened to me when Gurudev came back in that one instant. He was asking me. He said, "Oh, he said, I went to the West and they treated me so nicely. It was so wonderfully. Everything was provided." So then Gurudev, he raised up his hand. He said, "Can you read my hand and see if I should go back again next year?" And I started laughing and I just slapped Gurudev's hand. I said, "Gurudev should go back every year." It was like that. And he started laughing. Gurudev said, "He's such a beautiful person." I mean, that's the whole point. He's like, how could you not fall in love with such a person? You know, that type of love, you know, Gurudev had for Srimati Radhika. You know, how can you not follow a person like that? That's what amazed me, you know, that I could not feel like what devotees were missing and things like that, but not getting his association. You know. He was completely selfless. He didn't want anything for himself. He could have stayed in Braj, just like our Prabhupada. You know, he could have stayed in Braj here, but he didn't. After Gurudev, you know, had a problem with his liver and things like that, and he had other problems like that, he still went to the West. It's like that. So Gurudev sacrificed everything for us. So to me, myself is, I hope one day that I can sacrifice everything for such a personality like Gurudev. That if I can help please him, then my life will be successful. So I think that's covered a lot there. But, I didn't go into much Shastric evidence of this point, but it was mostly emotional.
Prabhuji, did you write any poem or anything you want to say? Because you're a poet, so we would like to hear if you had written something for Gurudev or Krishna or someone. A few lines maybe.
Sure.
I never knew you were a poet. I until like 2 days back.
Yeah, I came on the how do you say, reading Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu because I wanted to understand the emotions of the heart, you know. And that's what attracts me to different sadhus and devotees is their heartfelt connection, not so much the intellect, because intellect is beautiful, it's nice, but the heart is like when you sang Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakata Sadma, it's so sweet. Srila Sridhara Maharaj said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave us all the categorical system, how bhakti is like progressing, etc. like that. But he said, Nartam songs, they bring you right into the heart connection. Yeah. So Gurudev, like, he was like that. He was a heart person. So beautiful, you know.
Even Pujapad Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu Maharaj, he was also a very great poet, and you had good fortune to be with him.
Very great poet. It's amazing. You know. Sujanar Buddha Radhika.
Yes, so beautiful.
When I first came to Gurudev, I did not, I don't remember them singing that song before, you know. But then they started to add it to Samsara and then the Sujanar Buddha Radhika afterwards. And I was really happy to see Gurudev do that. But I wasn't ready to give you some poem right now, because actually these poems are very, very, you know, how do you say? They expose your heart. They completely like, it's like Gurudev said, the gopis, they don't really say, love you, I love you. You know, they just show it by their actions. And that, you see now, if you actually look at that poem, how many syllables it has and how it's divided up, And you think, incredible. They didn't have any poetry training, They were real, it became natural, So, I mean, I actually put one poem in the, one of the harmonists, and I put on it anonymous.
Oh,
So it was,
I'll have to look for all anonymous poems there.
it was actually a,
Save us the search.
yeah, it was actually a poem about the difference between the mind and intelligence,
Oh,
and then how the soul is actually higher than that. But it's kind of funny because one time Gurudev, he asked me to explain the verse, Jiver Sarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas, Krishna Tatasta Shakta Beta Beta Prakash. So I started to explain the Jiver Sarup, Hoy Krishna Nityadas, that we're eternal servants of Krishna, etc., like that, the Jiva. And I never really got in as deep as he did. And all of a sudden, then he turned to one of his other devotees and said, "Oh, you explain." And then when she started to explain, she started to get very much into, what the real sarup was of Manjari, etc., like that, the different rasas, Sakya, Vatsals, like that. No, it was a different devotee. But it's like that. It's like, and I thought to myself, oh, Gurudev, he wants us to go very deep, in the ras. The real poet, he'll understand ras. Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam. Shukamakad amita pravasammitam. Bhagavatam sam alayam. Mahuraho rasika bhavaka. Gurudev said, if we listen to the devotees that have bhav and ras like that, this is the proper understanding of Bhagavatam and what the conclusion of that is. And Gurudev, he told me one time, because I told him, I said, Prabhupada, he translated Bhagavad-gita, but he stressed Baladeva Dubhusham. And then Gurudev said, yes, but I like Vishwanath Chakravarti. And Gurudev said, he is an incarnation of Rupa Goswami. So, I mean, that is pure ras. Baladeva Dubhusham, beautiful, he's Rasik too, no doubt. Rasik Vaishnava. Because, people ask, who is the spiritual master of Baladeva Dubhusham? You know who he is? He asked people, they said, well, Vishwanath Chakravarti.
yeah, Vishwanath Chakravarti, yeah.
But that's Shiksha Guru. You see? He came from a Madhvacharya line. His actually Diksha Guru was Radha Damodar Goswami. And Radha Damodar Goswami brought him from the Madhvacharya line into the Gaudiya line, actually. And he'd only put out a few books. And his books, one of them was called the Chandak Kostuba, and another one was called the Vedanta Shamataka, like that. So these books actually are very, very touching, but their Chandak Kostuba, if you see how deep poetry goes and how it's set up, it's said that in there, if you speak and try to speak on Bhagavatam verses in these meters like that without understanding the chanda, like that, it's like a person trying to speak, but his head is already cut off. What can he say? It's like that. So in that sense, Gurudev taught me, what a real poet was, what a real poet was. And like Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, who could have Gurudev gave us Vilapa-Kusumanjali was, what he gave in his commentary in Vilapa-Kusumanjali. That is the meditation on Manjari Bhav. And it's so personal, it's so heartfelt. It's to be kept in your heart. One day, I will show you one of my poems. But right now, I think because I'd want to write down and meditate on it. Because every word of Bhagavatam, every word of Bhagavatam, practically speaking, either directly goes to Srimati Radhika or indirect. So that's why it's called Radha Bhagavatam, not just, Krishna Bhagavatam. Right? So who's the more of a greater poet, Srimati Radhika or Krishna?
Radhika, of course.
Who's the better flute player, Radhika or Krishna? Radhika,
Yeah.
like that. So anyway, one day I will show you one of my
Okay,
poems.
okay, Prabhuji. I will surely see it when I visit Vrindavan next time.
I will never be able to top what Proti Gurudev has spoken, or Srila Sridhara has spoken, Srila Prabhupada, these are Vaishnava poets. Their poetry is coming from very high, very deep, very deep. One time outside, they were doing a kirtan outside of Srila Sridhara's mountain. His Chitananda was a sannyasi at that time. He asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, can I go out there? I should stop this kirtan out there because they're making disturbance to our discussion here. So I would take a gun out there and I'll chase them away. And Srila Sridhara became a little bit shocked. And then Srila Prabhupada said, you should do no such a thing. You pick your cartels up and you go outside and you chant. You Shingade prayer and you chant. So they went out and he chanted and they dispersed. So he came back and he was sitting there listening to Srila Sridhara and our Prabhupada speak back and forth. And then he said, what were you talking about, Prabhupada? He said, if I told you, you would faint. He said, you would faint. So you can imagine how wonderful the talks between Gurudev, Prabhupada, Srila Sridhara, all these Vaishnavas are like that. Pure poetry. Pure poetry. Because it's coming from the heart. Deep. Not just lip service. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak a few words on Srila Gurudev and our acharyas like that. And when we get together, I'll show you one of my poems.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for being here. And I will just summarize what you said. You had your first meeting with Srila Gurudev. You saw him singing first time.
Yeah.
In Sridhar Maharaj's Mat, Jay Anila Premadhan. And he took your heart immediately.
Stole my heart, yeah.
Yes. 1987, Swami Maharaj stayed in a room with Prant Kishore. You went to the Mat, Keshavji Gaudi Mat, and stayed there in Swami Maharaj's room.
Yeah, it's very fortunate. As association devotees, we will go on and on like that.
Yes.
Good association.
So it was way back in 1987. I mean, I think you were probably one of the first Western devotees to come to Srila Gurudev. And then you were sick and he told you, I'll take you to a big doctor. And he took you to a kirtan instead. And then you asked, where is my doctor? He said, you didn't see a doctor? That kirtan was your doctor. And actually it was.
Yeah, it's amazing. Right?
Yeah.
Gurudev's love, he loved kirtan. He loved kirtan. He was one of the best kirtaniyas, Gaudiya Math.
And then you spoke very nicely about Tad Vidhi Pranipaten Pari Prashnin Sevaya. It's only through seva that you establish connection with Gurudev. So you came to Srila Gurudev with Prant Kishore Prabhu and you asked for what seva you can do. We must all understand this point what Prabhuji is making, that if you do not do seva, then your connection will not mature, it will not establish properly. So all of us will have to do some kind of seva to our Gurudev. Tad vidhi pranipatin pariprashnin sevaya, as it told in Gita. Then you had said that you had read the book by Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj, Guru and His Grace. But now you could see that in action when you met Srila Gurudev, how you can materialize that what was written in the book. And you first saw the classes on Brihad Bhagavatam for the first time.
Yeah.
I think Gurudev has done these classes, I think 4 times I've heard. Whole Brihad Bhagavatam he is covered. It was one of his favorite granths.
Yeah. Going beyond Vaikuntha and Bhakti-rasamrta-sindhu.
Yes.
This is all from Brihad Bhagavatam. Even Shiva Tattva is Brihad Bhagavatam.
Yes, yes.
So,
And then you said Gurudev's kirtan is very powerful. Yes, his kirtan was really powerful. Even now when we listen, his voice is very sweet. And he was known as Kirtani of Gaudiya Math, actually. When he was young, he was a main Kirtani.
yeah, I mean, many devotees actually were good kirtaniyas patterned the kirtan after Gurudev.
Then you had a good fortune to stay in Mathura Math along with your whole family, and you described how you came with so many bags in the mud. I must tell you, all of the listeners, those who don't know about this mud, it is not very easy to stay in that mud. It is very, very austere. The water is very hard. And Prabhuji must be knowing it very well. It's really hard because when we used to go, if you take bath, your hair will become like very hard. You can't put your finger in there.
Yeah, it was
And
amazing.
Gurudev used to get his water from Yamunaji every day for, I think, drinking or taking bath. People used to bring water for him. So it is very austere, especially in 87, it was even more austere that time.
Yeah, it was more austere.
So you had a good fortune of staying with Srila Gurudev there for some time. Then you went to Vrindavan, and then you realized that Gurudev is everywhere. You felt his presence in your room in Vrindavan. And then Maharaj told you very, very sweet and nice thing. He says, I'm always in Vrindavan. I heard him once, he was saying a katha, and he said, people don't understand that people who are living in Mathura may not be living in Mathura. They could be in Vrindavan all the time. So he was just indicating about himself that even though he lived in Mathura for so many years, but actually he was in Vrindavan all the time. And that's what he told you also. I'm always in Vrindavan.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you asked him, I won't have your association. So he said, I'm always in Vrindavan.
Yeah, always. Amazing, because that's the way we should feel about Gurudev.
Then you asked for service to Prabhupada in Radha Damodar temple, and you met Gopichandra Vallabh Prabhu. The same Gopichandra Vallabh Prabhu who is with you right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, nice.
We were talking what the meaning of Shiksha Guru is.
Okay.
Shiksha Guru.
We're going to hear from him also in a few days. So it will be nice to hear. Yes.
Many sweet pastimes about Gurudev too.
So he engaged you in cleaning the Radha Damodar temple along with him. And you describe how your young daughter Janava came with you for Aarti, sitting on his shoulder every day. We would call her also to the program. She sings really beautiful, and I'm sure she has a lot of good experiences with Srila Gurudev. And you talked about how come your camera has gone off, Prabhuji? Now it's there. Yeah. You talked about listening from Rasik Vaishnavas. If you do not listen from Rasik Vaishnavas, then our chanting will not improve, because while chanting, we are supposed to be thinking of the pastimes. But pastimes we can only hear from Rasik Vaishnavas, those who know about them. So it is very, very important that we associate with them. And then you worked in Reyes of the Harmonists. You were one of the team members who brought out this first edition. Manah-siksa, Bhagavad-gita, so much seva you have done to Srila Gurudev. And the last issue of Rays of Harmonists in 2000, you described about it, the last Vyas Puja of the century. And I have not read it, but now I'm inspired, and I will see on the online. It's available on purebhakti.com. I think all Rays of the Harmonists are there, so we can read. All of us can go and read that.
People don't know that the first rays of the harmonists that Kalir, Damod and I worked on, at that time the electricity was not so good. So we would have to type in like a few words and like that, and then push the save button.
Oh.
Type in a few words and push the save button. Otherwise, the electricity would go off and it'd erase everything.
Oh, the light goes there, everything goes.
Everything goes.
Yeah.
So we'd have to finally we decided,
Keep
well, we'll
saving.
go. Yeah, we went to Delhi. We had to go to Delhi to finish the book one time,
Oh. So
But
it was very
really,
difficult circumstances that time, I can understand.
yeah.
And the Gurudev said that way how to repay. You said, I cannot repay you, Gurudev. He said, way to repay is to help my devotees.
Yes.
So, which I think you're doing already, and all of us should do. We cannot repay our Gurudev, but we can do something.
Yeah, like you're doing. This is nice.
And you spoke again very nice sentence. Krishna is Ekras and Anekras, but gopis were Ekras all the time.
Yes.
So we have to be Ekras like gopis.
Yeah.
And before departing, Srila Gurudev gave you the work for Brihad Bhagavatamrit, which was in your heart, and he read your heart very nicely, and he gave you the work which you wanted. And you don't take sannyas. Guru gives sannyas by his mercy. You actually don't take anything. You don't take diksha, you don't take harinam. Gurudev gives you by his mercy. He's very merciful and he gives it to you and you accept it.
Yes.
Yeah. Who are we to take anything? We cannot do. So yeah.
You can't take mercy. Srila is independent. Mercy is independent. Comes by the Guru's grace.
Yes, yes. And then when Prabhupada departed, you heard Gurudev saying Shri Rupa Manjari Pad Say Mora Sampad. So you're touched by the song. And we should understand Rupa Goswami is more important to us now than Rupa Manjari, because we are in sadhak stage and Rupa Goswami is very, very helpful for us. So we should follow his life and his example, how he came to Vrindavan, leaving everything which he had. He was so opulent, like he was a finance minister, and he gave up everything and came. And then Gurudev warned against trying to move too fast. This is very, very important, I think, Prabhuji. A lot of people are very eager to move very fast and they go into rasa straight away and then fall down. And we have to be very careful. Gurudev warned against it. It will manifest on its own. You cannot grab it. You cannot force yourself on these tattvas. They will manifest themselves gently at their own will. So you have to go step by step. If you jump too high too quickly, then you will fall down. Very, very important. And mind is material. It cannot meditate on spiritual. You said this. So we cannot meditate on spiritual. It will just come on its own. We have to allow it to come. And
comes
then you
down.
talk. Yes.
Madini Shakti comes down,
Yes. We can't even pull it down. If you pull it, nothing will come. It just comes down on its own accord. So you have to just wait. And then you talked about Imlitala so nicely, how Krishna meditated on Radhika, and also Mahaprabhu meditated on Radha there, and Krishna turned white, thinking about Radhika. Radhika's color engulfed him throughout. So we are at such an important place. Right now, you're sitting next to Imlitala and talking to us. So we can feel that energy from Imlitala coming to all of us. Yeah. And then Gurudev gave so much importance to parikrama and chanting in that mood, because when you go to that places, then that mood will be in us. So now parikrama is coming not very far, Kartik parikrama. We should all make endeavor to go there to those places and then hear Harikatha from advanced Vaishnavas, so that mood will come into us. Gurudev gave so much importance to this. Yes. And
oh, amazing. You got a very nice memory. You summarized the whole thing nicely.
And you said Prabhupada has given everything and it will be given again and again and again. Yeah, I remember Gurudev saying in one of his lectures, he said, Rupa Goswami wrote so many granthas, he gave everything. And why did Prabhupada write? Bhakti-vedanta Swami Thakur. Then he gave everything. Why did Swami Maharaj write? Then he gave everything. I'm also writing. So he said, the writing will continue regardless, even though all the acharyas give everything, but still the acharyas will be writing. And you talked about sense of humor of Srila Gurudev. Everybody who has met him knows about this, that he was such a good sense of humor he had. He will joke with Trivikram Maharaj, and he will tell so many joking pastimes for Krishna, like flute stealing, water pastimes. And we should continue to study his words and meditate. That's what he said. And love is most powerful. Importance of Yamuna and Radha Kund, Gurudev explained to us. And then you talked about standing in front of a pure devotee and asking about is that a pure devotee? So that is our misfortune and that is our stage where we are in as a Baddha Jeev. We cannot see a pure devotee clearly, and we even Gurudev darshan, not everybody has taken, everybody's darshan is not the same. Some people saw something else, some people saw something else. Only very few people could see him as he is probably. Even we could not see him. Now we are seeing some more part of him when we hear from advanced devotees like you, Prabhuji, and others who have spoken on this program. We come to know that, oh, Gurudev was so much more than what we had known that time. And even now we know so little about him. It will keep on expanding as we grow in this path. And you lastly spoke very, very nice thing. How can you not fall in love with a personality like him? Those who have seen him, those who have heard him, those who have read his books, you will have no option but to fall in love with him, because he's such a pure devotee. He's amazing. He sacrificed everything for us. Your last prayer was, and I hope we can do the same for him. If not everything, at least something we should be able to do. All of us should be able to do something for him, something. Let us find out what is that something we can do for him. If we start with something, it will grow into slowly it will move towards everything, I think.
Yes.
So very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your realization over so many years, and your sweet pastimes with Srila Gurudev, very inspiring. I pray in your for my pranams to you, and pray for some of the relations to come into my heart about Srila Gurudev. And I thank all the listeners, and for my pranams to all the listeners for being here, encouraging all of us. Thank you so much, Guruji.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak 2 words about Gurudev.
Thank you. Tomorrow we are going to have Saturday, so we'll have Gaur Narayan Raskanika, special program about Srila Gurudev's books written by him. So tomorrow we'll be starting a new book, Updeshamrit, and our Pujapad Sri Krishnadas Prabhu from Vrindavan will be talking about this book tomorrow. It will continue for 3 or 4 Saturdays. So yes, tomorrow we will have this program at 8 o'clock in the evening. And day after Sunday, we have a special tithi, disappearance day of Srila Lokanath Goswami. So our Pujapad Vishnu Prabhu will speak from Houston. So a lot of good program lined up. Please stay with us, and I will see all of you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrand ki jai, Gaur Bhakt Vrand ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Pujapad Tirthpad Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Paditanam Vaishnav.
Jai Ho.